Hello, innovators. I'm Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator. Today I'm talking with Hiroshi, a traveler, Japanese Tarzan as he's called, an Acrobat, Bboy, and Calisthenics performer. So thank you for joining me on the Polymath Polycast.
Thanks for having me.
Overall, this is a show by PolyInnovator, so please say hello to the innovators in the audience.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
One way I like to break the ice when it comes to these conversations is to have you share something about yourself that no one knows about you.
Well, I express myself quite a lot on Instagram, on TikTok, and all these social platforms, so there's not much anymore. Well, I'm living with my mother right now.
I think, aren't we all?
That's the most honest thing I could say.
Yeah. No, but it makes sense considering everything going on in the world. Hello and welcome to the Polymath Polycast. Let's move on to then, I guess, to what I would ask is, what is your mindset 5 years ago before you started having this pandemic, before you started being on TikTok? How have you changed in those 5 years?
Well, a lot has changed, you know. Personally, I thought being a street performer is the most secure job ever. That no matter, even if all the businesses collapse, that the street will always be available for me to perform in, and I'm always going to be financially stable. But then if you cannot gather people, if you cannot travel outside your own country, then you're doomed, you know? So you really have, I start really realizing that anything can change.
Mm-hmm. Well, and considering everything going on right now, that probably hit you pretty hard, more than most even, I would say.
Yep.
What have you done then as a pivot, as an alternative?
So the first thing I did is to really focus on cleaning my skills, building on my handstands. And after 3-4 months, I think I'd start joining other platforms like TikTok in May, which is about 4 or 5 months ago. And I realized, okay, just trying to be as creative as I can and stay mentally strong in the middle of this all crisis, you know? Mm-hmm. Just staying strong and getting better.
Yeah, and it seems like you've been able to transition pretty well, because when I saw your content, it seemed like you had been doing it for a long time. Obviously, as a performer, you have that kind of natural performance mindset, and it shows in your content.
I think so. At the same time, I'm definitely not trying to sell myself as much as I can. Like as a performer, I know what people want to see, you know, but instead, as a platform, I'm just kind of doing my own thing to become better myself.
Well, TikTok's a great way to experiment too. Not only is the platform changing a lot, but you can change with it. And I see the algorithm changing as well as it's viral too. Yeah.
Definitely.
Digging into some of the questions here, you're a worldwide performer in over 85 countries from what I read there. What got you started?
So as a street performer, I started around 7 years ago. I started in Australia. Firstly, I went there just to, as a working holiday, to find an ordinary farming job, etc. But I realized that the whole company was a scam. And so I was left jobless when I entered Australia. So I decided, okay, I have to do something. And so I decided, okay, I saw another street performer dancing on the street. I thought, okay, maybe I can do the same. So I kind of started dancing, put my hat down, and it was horrible. It's hard in the beginning. Like, you just don't know how to interact with people, how to ask for like financial support. But eventually, slowly, I just gained a lot of support from other friends. And yeah, just from there, it all started.
Well, and that whole thing there is not just physically. You're not just learning how to dance. You're learning how to be salesy. You're learning how to be mentally prepared under pressure when everyone's kind of yelling at you or being happy with you. It's a lot of pressure, even happiness. And so being able to run that crowd, all that good stuff. So how have you adapted then since the pandemic with all, I kind of already asked that, but like how have you been adapting personally?
So I think it's like, slowly just embracing the fact that you just don't know when this pandemic will get better, you know? In the beginning, I was like hoping that by August this year, I can go back to Edinburgh, like Scotland, which has the biggest festival, street performing festival every year. And that's like my month where I can get financially stable. But this year, I'm like, oh man, now that's not available. And by December this year, I was hoping to go to Australia, New Zealand, and kind of try to work hard to get back the money I lost for the whole year. But again, I realize now I'm kind of giving up on that, you know? So, and then instead, I'm kind of trying to really embrace the fact that things won't just suddenly return in an instant, but then hoping that 2021, maybe even 2022, but by that time, I'll get more stronger and build my skills more.
Well, and I definitely see this time as an opportunity. A lot of times I've been talking to people on the show, we've talked about these COVID resolutions, so to speak. What are you going to do during this quarantine? When when you started on like platforms like TikTok around May, that's when I started doing these interviews. I've had my podcast for years,
Wow.
but it wasn't
Amazing.
until
Okay.
May. And you're my 59th guest since the end of May.
Wow. That's amazing.
So, and you have over 44,000 followers on TikTok. That's amazing.
That's okay. It's pretty slow, but okay.
Yeah. Well, to put it in perspective, I've been on there for nearly 2 years. I only have 2,800, so good on you. But so the model for your show, your motto, so to speak, is never give up. What inspired that?
I think as a street performer in the beginning, I was really about to give up, like I remember when I first started, I had no idea how to gather crowds. So I started wearing costumes of like dinosaurs, Superman costume. And then people look down on me and they'll kind of start. I think that one of the first comment I received as a street performer was like, "Hey, you ain't that good, mate. Like, go back to your country." So it had that racist element. It had that sense of like your self-esteem being broken. And I really thought, okay, it's better to work in McDonald's or somewhere like simple than to kill myself on the street, And the thing is, I also have a pretty good academic background. I studied in one of the best universities in UK. And then from there, like coming onto Raw Street again, being told to like that you're crap, Yeah. That kind of really put myself down. But from there, I thought, okay. And then I did some other job interviews. I think I went to Amnesty International, and then they immediately say, okay, yeah, you're welcome. You speak a couple of different languages. You're a very talented speaker. So come. But after I thought, no, it's something I started. Let me try to work a bit more. And then eventually I got better and better. And in about 6 months, I was like one of the best performers in Australia. So
yeah,
that's it.
well,
I have to give up.
I saw some of those performances too when I was doing the research. It's like, man, you do know how to work a crowd, get everybody hyped up, get people to participate, which is really a big deal too.
Most important.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily see much on your education. What did you study?
So I studied philosophy and economics.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a whole major.
What sort of things did you learn?
To be honest, like I learned much more about philosophy and about economics like after I graduated. After graduating, I traveled around the world for about 4 years. So I say 85 countries. I've kind of like, and of course, while I'm cycling on my bicycle across India, hitchhiking across Africa, walking across Egypt, in these moments, you really reflect on what life is, and you really start philosophizing. And I realized, okay, everything I learned in university was just like theory, but to really understand the philosophy of life, etc., and what I was looking for, then it comes from traveling. But still, you learn the basics. You learn all the kind of like, oh, okay, can machine think, or or the economic thing,
Yeah, macro and microeconomics and all that good stuff.
Exactly, all that.
Well, and you learn more by doing, obviously. And I think you have a very self-educated vibe where you've taught yourself many things that you needed to know. That's what I'm getting from you. What sort of things then do you think has inspired you to pursue all those new knowledge, like learning new languages? I mean, curiosity is a big part of that, but what do you think has driven you?
I think just encountering random simple books. I remember before I started studying philosophy, one of the books I read was like Sophie's World, or even The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And a couple of these books, it kind of really makes you think, okay, so who am I? What am I? And all these small things. And they're kind of but then as well as that, I could have taken a single just major philosophy, but like the university I studied is called London School of Economics, and it was much more stronger background in terms of that. And I thought, okay, maybe I still have to think a little bit about my future security. So I tried to incorporate economics as well.
Well, and one thing I think is really key is that I have a principle in life for balance, where you want to do science and arts and getting a balance between the two. Definitely. And that's what you did there too.
Exactly.
What is one of your principles for life?
I think importance of, there's a lot of principles, but.
Feel free to share as many as you want.
That's a hard question. I believe in the importance of intention, as in like more than the consequence of an action. For example, like whatever happens in the future, I believe that it's important to be compassionate towards other people. I believe it's important to love other people through your heart, not just romantically, but like just unconditionally, just for the sake of it, And no matter, even if the world turns out to be worse. Still, as an individual level, it's important to just do what you can and be kind in the way you can.
Yes, and that compassion leads to non-judgments and understanding, empathy, all that.
Yep, that's all part of my, I think, core principle. I think understanding. Yeah, I remember when I was traveling around across Hungary on my bicycle, one philosopher asked me, "What is the opposite of hate?" And of course, we instantly said, "Yeah, love, maybe like, etc." But then eventually, he told us that it's understanding, and that was like really striking. Yeah.
Well, and one thing I've been thinking about recently is judgment. So not judging others, even if you might feel like they deserve it or something like that. You don't know what's going on in their life. They could have been running to the hospital, and that's why they were about to cut you off on the road or something like that.
Exactly. And of course, judgment comes from misunderstanding, you know?
Exactly. Well, how many languages do you speak now?
So, well, I mean, like in a conversation level, I speak English, Japanese, I speak a little bit French, Spanish. And when I was traveling across India, I spoke a little bit Hindi. When I was traveling across Egypt, I spoke a little bit of Arabic. So it's really a tool, you know? It's not necessarily like, it's a means towards, communication.
One of my things is passion about languages, where I would say hi in 24 different languages growing up and learning Spanish growing up because I grew up with a Hispanic family. And so it's interesting how like just languages are very incorporated into your daily life. It's not a ethereal concept. It's literally just a tool to communicate with people.
Exactly. Yep.
Is there any particular languages that you want to learn?
I'm studying every day, like French, because I want to do more street shows in France, you know?
Yeah, go in Paris.
And that's it, exactly, or just everywhere else, yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful places.
I'm trying to study Russian, but it's hard to study by yourself some languages because I know the basics of French already, you know? I can't already have simple conversations. I can understand what most people are speaking about, but to start learning a language by yourself is very difficult. And I'm trying to learn Russian.
And it's interesting how there's not as many resources for things like Russian or even Japanese when it comes to the US right now, it seems like, but unless you're in school taking it. And then, for example, Hindi, like I can't find any resources very well for Hindi, despite the fact that it's so prevalent. And there's so many dialects in India as well. You can go 5 miles in completely different dialect.
Exactly.
What sort of experiences have you pushed through where you wanted to give up, but you didn't, besides that street performance, for example?
Well, there's a lot. Again, so injury is one of the major problems that really pushes you down, you know? As a gymnast, I was a gymnast for 12 years too. And every time I had a shoulder injury, like whenever I have a back injury, I just feel like, okay, that's not it. Same as breakdancing. And even as hand balancer, hand balancers, it's less frequent I get injuries because it's much more stable balance. Whereas like breakdancing, you're spinning around, you're twisting your body. So like injuries like a weekly thing, you know? And every time I feel like, you think you're improving and then you go back again, you go down again, you're improving and going down, you're not progressing.
Right. What have you learned then to get out of an injury quicker? The contrast therapy, like hot and cold, or what?
Yeah, I think that's one thing. But make sure it's a basic common sense. Stretch properly and having right knowledge. That's very important. Like having right teaching, having right information. This is one thing I definitely stress to people on TikTok or to my students too. That don't just follow these random fitness instructors telling you to do certain exercise because that's going to get you injured. Same as learning handstand, you know, like there's so much same backflips. Like you can just chuck yourself backflip, but with the wrong technique, you injure yourself and you won't, you know. But whereas if you have the right technique, then you can just do it for hours and hours and never get injured.
Well, and there's a certain matter of practice and learning how, and when you learn from multiple instructors and multiple different disciplines, you get to such a different view of it all. When you, for example, CrossFit, if you look up the Wikipedia definition of it, it's just all it is cross-discipline between disciplines. But the problem is most people see it as like this CrossFit gym and they do half reps and not really full-on work on the form. I actually you asked me beforehand if I create content about fitness, and my next phase was going to be around polymath exercise, where I came an idea of multiple different areas coming together.
Great.
Quite like you. In fact, I would consider you a polymathlete, so to speak. So what do you think are the limits then of the human body?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of limit, I think it's the sky's the limit. You know, like the athletes will constantly improve as long as they know the potential. For example, the runner will become faster and faster as long as they know that it's possible to beat the 9-second barrier. And same as an athlete, like the breakdancing community is improving tremendously right now. Compared to 10 years ago, it's insane what they're doing. But then, like these new generations should never look down to the past generations because they have all these new informations. Like recently, I watched the YouTube channel just teaching a skill, you know, and I worked for 10 years doing that, trying to learn that skill by myself, but I couldn't do it. But then after watching the video, I could do it in like 2 days.
Oh.
So it's like the information is so important. So information comes along with our limits, you know. And once we know it's possible to break the limit, it's possible to break the limit. But if you don't believe that you can, that's where your limit is.
In fact, a lot of my clients, when I train them, they'll say like, "Oh, I can't do that," and I'm like, "Don't say that. That's against the rules. You can't say that because once you start believing it, that's when it actually happens." Exactly. Is there any particular feats besides the handstands that you've been working on recently?
So I've definitely been getting more into calisthenics. Like I think most people on TikTok think I'm a calisthenic performer because I'm such a strength-based acrobat, you know. And the thing is, I'm still a hand balancer. Mainly, I just on my hands. I don't normally do these push-ups stuff, you know, like diamond push-ups. I've never even thought about it until people are telling me, "Oh, Hiroshi, teach me calisthenics." I'm like, okay, I'll show you a little bit chin up. I was also a gymnast for a long time, so I do have the core training too. But yeah, so I'm kind of doing all these planches and stuff, and I was even doing some front lever, like you hang on the wall, and I realized, okay, I can still do this crap, you know. But
as a gymnast, have you ever been able to do the muscle ups where you're pushing up?
Yeah, of course. I did muscle ups, I did cross. So I was pretty high in the gymnast level when I was like 13, 14. Yeah, that's
fantastic. It's one of those things too. Those I still can't do very well. I've tried, but it's a lot of pressure there. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a lot of things you do as bodyweight calisthenics. It's inside your head. It's inside your head. So people, when they say, okay, of course your weight does make a difference, but every time someone says, "Oh, you can't do it if you're heavier," I say no. Like 99% of the information of these skills are in my head. So I know that even if I weigh another 20 kilogram more, 30 kilogram more, I can still do these handstand push-ups and stuff because I know how to do it. Yeah.
Not only do you know how to do it, but the neuromuscular connection, the connection between the muscles and the brain is so much stronger because you've already done it so much.
Yep.
It's interesting. At the beginning of the pandemic, my work is at a recreation facility. So I was able to work out there. Even though I do a lot of calisthenics, I was able to do a lot more advanced calisthenics at that facility. And since my workouts relied on kind of having that background, when we stopped working because everyone had to go home, my workouts started kind of dipping, so to speak. And I realized that it's been a while since I started doing pull-ups. So I started going about a month away before I even started practicing again. And at one point, I told myself I wanted to do 100 pull-ups again because I had done it before, but that was like 10 pounds lighter. I was 170 instead of 180. And I was like, okay, this is going to be hard. I haven't done them in a while, but I'm not going to leave this location until I'm done. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how sweaty I get, how tired I get. I'm not going to leave until I get it done. And I didn't. I did it until I got to 100.
Exactly.
Is there a particular feats that you've done like that really motivate you and kind of or excite you now still?
Yeah, I think, as I said, when I was gymnast, for example, I could do the crucifix, you know, you basically just balance like this. And that's the moment you realize that, okay, it's really, once you break through the barrier or the limit inside your head that you can't do it, then you just be able to do it. And same as a lot of handstand things, like when you're working on it, you might think that, oh my God, you're not progressing. But after a year, maybe not even a year, 6 months, when you can do it, you realize, okay, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I can do it right now. And I think that's what it's all about, you know, this consistency and patience, and that'll lead you to whatever you want.
That patience, especially, and it comes down also to like flow. So flow is an optimal state of focus. Have you been able to experience it very much?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I would presume, considering your background. I just wanted to make sure I ask. Is there any particular experiences in particular that stand out to you?
In terms of flow?
Being in the zone?
Yeah, like every time I'm in a handstand, I have to be in the zone, you know, it's like in the present. And just sometimes you realize, oh wow, how the hell did I do that?
Yeah.
And then of course, like from that moment, same as I recently managed to push up from one arm into handstand, and that was a quite recent trick. And one thing I learned from that is the less the more. When I say that, it means the less I think about it, the less body movement I incorporate in it, the better I can do it. When you try to do it, when you try to do it, you can't do it. But yeah, sometimes when you feel, I've done enough, and then wow, how the hell did I do it? Like the less movement, it's more stronger.
I remember growing up, I sucked at basketball, and at one point, I was at the 3-point line. I had the ball in my hands. I was facing away from the nets, and I was like, you know what? I'm done today. I'm not playing this anymore. And I threw it back, and it landed 3-pointers and like backwards. It was fantastic. But that's because I had just loosened up, let my body go, and did it.
I think one really good example is Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. He just does it from here and that really shows how much force you can incorporate from that minimal movement, but it's more to do with just small things in between.
Yeah. Well, and the consistency, like you mentioned there, Bruce Lee talks about he is more scared of a person who did one kick 1,000 times than he is a person who did 1,000 kicks one time.
Yeah. Of course. For sure.
Well, and considering the theme of the show, polymathy, being someone who's multidisciplinary, I kind of lean towards the idea of like, I want to do 1,000 different kicks. That's cool. You can learn from all these different styles. But the practice, the muscle practice, it's so key.
Yeah, of course. It's very important.
So kind of just touching on what you mentioned earlier about the hand balancing, what are some of the beginner or advanced tips you might be able to share for people?
So I'd say there's lots and lots of good information on YouTube, as well as a lot of bad information on YouTube. There's a lot of good ones. And it all comes down to just handstand is all about alignment, being able to find from the tip of your toes all the way down to your fingers. And the more boring an exercise seems, probably the better. So yeah, make sure I think that's one thing I'll emphasize. Whereas if they're kind of like kicking onto the wall and stuff immediately and telling you this is how you can do it, if you can do you can do this in 10 days or 10 minutes, then it's probably just waste of time.
Yeah.
So instead, look at all these small exercises that they teach you on handstand about, just like being able to lift your shoulders up, being able to keep your chest in, and all the like just simple exercises is what makes your handstand more better.
Well, and there's certain movements too, like push-ups and sit-ups and squats that if you don't, or pull-ups even especially too, that if you don't practice those, you're not going to be able to get to more advanced movements, as you know.
Of course. Yep.
What drives you to
small good exercise?
What's that?
Lots of small basic exercise is more important than just doing big exercise,
Yeah. What do you enjoy about all your physical prowess? Because it's obviously pretty immense. Do you have anything that you particularly like?
As a street performer, I do like the attention, we get doing these big tricks. And like, I forgot what I told you, but like, I think it was 2 years ago or even last year, like I was invited by America's Got Talent. And I was thinking, should I do it? But as a street performer, I had the idea that as an artist, I had the idea that, okay, this is an industry that doesn't compensate to the artist in the way that we should be. Like if they pay for my time there, like as an artist, for me, every time I'm invited to do a festival or a gig, immediate condition is, okay, I need a good place to stay, of course, flight, as well as financial compensation for like whatever service I'm providing them, But America's Got Talent said, no, it's a competition. So I said, no, I'm not going to get into this. But right now, after TikTok, I feel like, okay, I might be able to say yes next time.
Right. Hopefully you'll be able to get some nice features too, get the penthouse suite, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
What is your passion in life? Big question, but I want to ask.
My passion is, right now, it's always changing, with the flow. Like, once my passion was breakdancing, I love breakdance. I was doing it for maybe like 6-7 hours a day. Just that was the only thing I could think about. And as a street performer, that was the only thing I could think about. I would do like as many shows, and I love the financial reward as well as just being in the moment, being able to communicate with people on the street, and just having fun daily basis, meeting other artists, etc. And right now, of course, here in the mountain, training by myself, the handstand is my passion, and calisthenics is my passion, and just becoming a better artist is my passion.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that I'm really jealous that you're up in the mountain. I would love to be training in a mountain. We were joking around about some Kung Fu beforehand where some of the movements you do obviously look like some kung fu movements. I even saw a TikTok of you going downstairs as if like some of the Shaolin monks do. Is there any particular things you do on the mountain uniquely exercise-wise?
I do gardening, lots of gardening. I cut lots of trees, I take out the weed, and in between. But the good thing is, while I'm kind of picking up the weed and stuff, I'm always stretching in between. I try to do it in ways I can, you know. So instead of just bending forward, I'm always kind of like stretching every time. So it's kind of like a cross discipline, cross training.
Well, weeding, just pulling weeds by itself, you can pull your back, you can stretch your hamstrings too much. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and it's interesting as well because you're taking a very naturalistic approach to exercise with all the stuff you're doing. And that naturalistic is much better for us. That's why a lot of people who just do weights and more artificial exercises, they often have knee pain or shoulder pain because they're doing too many restricted movements.
Yep.
So by proxy, it's kind of like your passion in a way. What would be your ikigai, do you think?
My ikigai, I think it's just a matter of living in the moment, you know, being able to find the moments and really commit to living in the moment. Of course, we can always be distracted by our future as well as past, but still try to find even the busiest moment or the loneliest moment, just a small joy in the present.
Yeah. That's why I love these conversations, is that I've always been a futurist. I'm always thinking about the future. I try to learn from mistakes, so I don't think about the past too much. But in these conversations, I can get into the state of flow with you, have a great conversation with you, Hiroshi, and just be in the moment. Like right now, I'm only caring about this.
Exactly.
So something I asked,
like sorry, like every artist I encounter, or every even pop artist, you know, like singers, for example, we don't initially drive into becoming popular, wanting to become like, yay, I get a big car, or yay, I'm all surrounded by lots of fancy people. But instead, we do it, we enter it because we love it. But the problem is, once you enter it, a lot of time we change. Yeah, we get so much distraction, etc. But yeah, so I feel bad. I'm always inclined to become popular or becoming big. At the same time, I know that I need to have a strong will to stay who I am, even if I do enter into this big zone, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see two different paths for you. The one that's more solitary and just doing the things that you're doing now, and the other one where you're getting big. And I think both will be perfect for you, but it's one of those things that it's not my opinion, it's what your opinion matters. But it's just interesting how if you do go big, I do think that your philosophy background will still ground you when you need to be.
Yeah, hopefully, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully. But then even the biggest, most amazing people have changed, you know? Because
you did mention earlier in the episode that you've changed a lot already, and if we keep changing, let's just hope it's positive.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be positive.
So something I ask all my guests is, what is a polymath to you?
I think in terms of just being able to be appreciative of having different skills, different talents, and not thinking that you're a loser because you can't focus on one path. Rather to embrace different paths at the same time and realize that connection between each and every path you take. For example, whenever I don't think any of the moment I studied philosophy, studied economics was a waste of time. Instead, that's just part of what made who I am right now, you know. And whether that be academic, and it's same as I used to be religious, and right now I'm not religious. But then again, this kind of element of what I was is still who I am right now. And being able to just find all these links and just put it into what you are right now, to be able to express yourself in unique ways that other people can't, because you're not just one path, but rather you're just multiple paths, and then kind of just trying to embrace the beauty of each path.
Yeah, and formulate a way for them to come together, I would say.
Exactly.
And it's interesting. Regardless of you're religious or not, you can still learn from the religion that you had already pursued.
Exactly. That's what I love about traveling too. You know, when I was in Egypt, every day I would hear the 5-time Quran, like prayer. And in the beginning, I'm like, okay, I don't. But then eventually you embrace it. Same as like when I'm in Japan, I hear much more Buddhism. When I'm in Europe, much more Christianity, and just be able to embrace and see the beauty in all of it.
Yeah. Do you know a little bit enough about Taoism?
I do not a lot, but yeah, I've read a couple.
It just seems like your go with the flow mentality resonates with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually a book called The Tao of Physics where they combine science and philosophy together.
Wow.
It's
Nice.
really interesting. Yeah, I thought you might like that. What are some of your favorite places around the world, considering you've traveled so extensively?
Again, it's a common question, you know, and every country, every village, every city like offers something unique, you know, as long as you're looking for that. But I have this annual ritual of going to Edinburgh, Scotland. That's again as a street performer, and this for me is like a place where artists gather together once a year and just be able to express ourselves to the entire world to come into that one city, you know. That's for me in terms of like just overall, that's one of my favorite cities. But as I said, I've traveled a lot. As long as you have an open heart to embrace your culture, embrace the differences, yeah, you'll find beauty in everywhere you go.
I love that. Is there any place that you haven't been to yet that you want to go in the next few years once everything opens back up?
Again, I definitely want to go to Mongolia.
Oh, yeah.
That's one country which is pretty famous for contortion. And again, I want to kind of start learning some flexibility contortion there. And I want to go to Iran because of the great poets there, as well as some interesting like philosophy. And I heard that they have one of the most wonderful people there. And I want to go to Georgia, which is again a small country in below Russia, because again I just hear some good stories. And so that's like as I travel, I meet other travelers who share me stories, you know, and that kind of like really inspires me to travel more and more and more.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, do you sing?
Do I sing? No, not at all. That's the last thing I do.
That's the last thing you do. I didn't know if considering your performance yet might be another pivot for you if you wanted to learn. Have you ever just thought about learning?
Not really. Like, yeah, my ex was a pretty good singer, you know, so I was like, kind of okay, try to learn from her, but but I want to learn some music instrument. Definitely, that's definitely one thing I want to learn.
Yeah, maybe drums or guitar, something like that.
Yeah.
So this is another kind of basic question, I guess you could say, but do you have any trips for traveling? Tips?
Do I have any tips for traveling? I think, again, every time I see some bunch of tourists, which are distinct from travelers, is a bunch of people who go to different countries, just have a party, you know, and which is I'm not against, like if that's what they want to do. But if you really want to learn something from it, if you want to gain something from it, just go with an open heart to try to embrace their different, like to try to learn something, you know, try to appreciate the countries you go to, try to at least respect the different culture. And I generally think it's important to travel at least once or twice in your life alone. Like even if you're with one person, another partner, it tends to just end up being in that small bubble, you know, and you don't get to just explore or just deviate from your own small comfort zone.
Right. I remember when I traveled to California for the first time, I was with my family, but some of the best experiences was when I was able to explore the peninsula and just explore the areas around me. It was fun.
Nice.
I've always wanted to travel, which is why I asked that question there. I told my late mentor actually that I wanted to travel around the world and become a digital nomad of sorts as well. That's one reason why I thought maybe that would be good for you, becoming a digital nomad, be a blogger, make money from that.
Everyone have a different talent, you know? Some people are just natural. As I said, I started traveling when I was 20, which was like 16, 17 years ago, you know? And we didn't even have a smartphone back then. All I had was a camera and an MP3 player. And I remember losing it. So yeah, and in that sense, it was pretty good. Like we didn't have Facebook, you know? So like there was no social network to share your platform. So it was more an individual postcard thing. I used to send postcards to my friend. But again, I would embrace the change that has happening right now. I wouldn't say it's better or worse right now than before in terms of having social network that we want to express ourselves, you know, the outer community. Back in the time, I remember when I was walking across Egypt, all I can think about was just, I want to write a book. Right now, it'll be like, oh, I want to share my story on Instagram. It's different.
Did you ever write the book, even partly?
I tried, but no, like I never had the consistency, which is very important, like Olympia.
Did you ever want to climb the Great Pyramids while you're there?
I went to I was walking across it. I slept on the pyramid one day, you know.
Nice.
Not the one in Cairo, the center one, but rather like when you're walking across the whole country, you realize, oh, there's a pyramid there. I'm gonna just sneak inside and just like sleep on the pyramid, you know.
Yeah. I don't know where I heard this. It was like a year ago, but someone got in trouble for climbing the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Oh, well,
Yeah. But I was like, that seems pretty cool. But obviously, I'm not endorsing anything illegal. Just want to say that it seems like a cool idea.
Yeah. Just so, the thing, I think as long as you truly believe, and as long as you're not disrespecting anyone at that moment in time, it's okay. Same as in church. If there's a church or a mosque, I would dance inside as long as there's no one watching me, you know? I think it's all about like respecting the other culture, respecting the people, local people there. If it's not harming their feelings, then it's okay.
You mentioned how you had an MP3 player with you, and considering the limited storage space on there, what were some of the songs you listened to on your journey?
Oh, well, I was like listening to some like really slow meditative songs. Other times I was kind of like listening to like when I'm cycling, I had to listen to some breakdancing tune. It's like pop, 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 like really allows you to just forget your tiredness, you know?
For sure. I found you via TikTok, where you've become this prolific creator. I was like so many videos on your channel there. What made you decide to join the platform in May?
I remember it was maybe around not February, even last year, like maybe late last year, around November or October. Many of my friends in Melbourne, Australia, were telling me, Hiroshi, your videos are going viral. Like someone took a video of you, you know? And I had like three videos of other people posting my show, which was getting like millions and millions of views. But then they're telling me, Hiroshi, you have to join. I was like, I can't join TikTok. What's the point? You know? And then after, I didn't even know what TikTok was for a long time. I thought, okay, it's just kids playing, you know? But then, so after around May, I joined, and I kind of sent the person, I think he had like 4 million views. I said, okay, by the way, that's me. Can you credit me? I said, okay, he credited me, but of course, none of the followers came to me. I think it's not really follower-based thing on TikTok. It's more about, like, you just have to be, that's why I know some insane world-class athletes who are very famous on Instagram, but who aren't getting many views on TikTok. Yeah. Because it's just a different platform. It's like TikTok don't care about like how impressive your skills are. It's more about just like they want to see some cute girls or some simple stupid.
Yeah. I was talking to someone earlier today actually about how there's different subcategories to TikTok now. Like I've seen it evolve over the past couple of years, and there was these certain people who were doing lip syncing, and there was people who were doing skits and comedy. There was people who were doing like DIY baking, stuff like that. But now it's expanded towards there's Star Wars, there's Harry Potter, there's all these different areas. There's also like martial arts, and there's also people doing physical acts. I do think that like there's people following you who think, oh, this guy's really cool. I want to follow him purely because I think that what he's doing is impressive and I want to learn from that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think if you want to get followers on TikTok, the most important thing is to have a character that people can assimilate to. Like I know two people, my two good friends. One is, his name is Arnaldo from Italy. He looks like Mr. Beans. He is Mr. Beans, you know? His show is Mr. Beans. But instantly he had like, I think 6 million followers in like 2 weeks, you know, just because he's kind of like, same as another guy called Mighty Mike. I think there's a character in anime called Escanor or something, and he looks quite like it. So he said, okay, I'm a Brazilian Escanor, and he basically, and everyone just loves him for it, you know? And so if I do decide to kind of like just dress up a little bit and make myself look like some anime character, that's what people want to see. It's something that they can relate to very easily. And even if it's pretty specific, if there's like still that specific is like million followers, you know?
Yeah. Is there like, you've kind of developed like a persona on TikTok, or especially on the streets too. How have you developed your persona yourself, do you think?
Yeah, of course. Like when you're traveling, like definitely you just have to start embracing. I think the change itself will build your persona, you know? Like you have to adapt to it. And of course, from receiving things from others, like whether it's be kindness, whether it be hospitality, that basically in return makes you want to give in return kindness and hospitality, you know? And so I think in that sense, definitely traveling and street performing are two things that definitely has built my persona in that sense.
Yeah. Well, it leads you to code switching, as they say. Like if you talk to somebody from this background or to talk to somebody this background, your code of talking to them is going to change to communicate with them the most effectively.
Yep.
Speaking of communication, something you said on YouTube was that sometimes it takes a soft communication with someone, other times you have to be bold in your speech. How have you learned to communicate in your experience?
Trial and error. Like you just have to, like in the beginning, I remember trying to get a kung fu character, I'll say, I was kind of shouting from the beginning, like, watch me! And then people get afraid and they say, no one would stop, you know? But eventually, and I was kind of, sometimes I would just say, hello, and then people stop. I'm like, okay. But then if I just become the really shy guy from the beginning to the end, people don't care, you know? So it's kind of like really blending in and find the right tone for the right people. If they're a family, kind of just be more nice. If they're more like bogan, it's Australian term for people who like rednecks. And for these people, you have to be like, yeah, watch me. You know, they like that kind of thing. So it's kind of find the right audience.
Yeah. And just even like your explanation there, you change certain context to explain the idea more accurately to whatever audience might be listening to the show. And so I think that's a very important example as well. So I'm curious, why are you referred to as the Japanese Tarzan?
No, it's kind of it's always, I think they need something for them to refer me to as. And there's a lot of they refer some people. I think anime is pretty big on TikTok, you know. So people are just calling me, what's the name? The guy with one punch. There's some anime called One Punch Man.
Yeah.
And people keep, or some Dragon Ball character. But okay, Japanese Tarzan was quite funny.
Yeah, I thought I'd ask because it's kind of a unique thing there, and maybe you could roll with it as your persona. No, before we wrap up, I just have a couple more questions here for you too. It's interesting because you started teaching online at this point in time. You take the very teaching approach to your content as well, teaching calisthenics exercises and stuff like that. Do you think you'll make a course or a book, perhaps even down the line?
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, I think the course sounds good. I already have a couple of friends who have made course. You know, it's just a matter of I'm super lazy in admins, making things. You know, if there's someone else, if I have a kind of if I have a worker who can actually do that for me, I'm like, okay, make it. You can have 90% of the profit.
Yeah, a ghostwriter, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, I've been learning about that for accountability, so to speak. Like when you're a street performer, you have the accountability to the audience. I'm a fitness instructor for classes. My clients are my accountability. Yeah. These interviews, you and my other guests, you are my accountability. I want to make sure this interview goes out on time because I want to be accountable to you. I have another series that I do. And for some reason, I can't get myself to do it. Even though I love creating it, I love being creative. I just can't get myself to snap out of it.
Yeah, accountability is very important. That's one thing that drives me too, in terms of doing the things that I promise, you know?
Yeah. How can we embrace change?
How can you embrace change? I think it's experience thing, you know? Once you have been forced to change so many times, you eventually realize that, okay, it's basically trying to hold on to something that's shifting it's a painful thing. Instead, just learn to, and once you realize that, once you embrace change, you feel much more better. Just makes it, and just repeatedly over and over, you embrace change, you feel, okay, that's just a natural flow. And things are always changing all the time anyways.
Yeah. Well, and none of us could have accounted for the pandemic happening, and it threw all of us for a loop. Some people adapted, some people didn't, but the more you can embrace it, and even now that things are slightly getting better in some places, still things are not going to go back the same thing to where it was. There's plenty of companies too that dramatically changed, and there's plenty of companies that left because they weren't able to adapt. Learning to embrace it, like you're saying there, is very important. So for those who want to learn more about you, maybe take a future course you have, or maybe follow you on TikTok, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I think I prefer the Instagram platform because it's much more personal. It's not as personal as Facebook what it used to be, and it's much every time I put a content on, it's more likely to reach you comparing to TikTok, which is much more public platform where there's something called For You page, and it's for the mass. It doesn't reach the followers as much as it should. Yeah. Whereas Instagram, every time I post it, it tends to reach the people who like my content. And the thing is, you can DM me directly on Instagram. It's called Herosanshow. Yeah.
I'll make sure I have links for you in the description there. Yep. And I didn't mean to interrupt there. The delay kind of got me there. It's interesting because whenever we started talking, we tried messaging on TikTok, and just the way the app was like, okay, this is not working too well. Let's just go over to Instagram. And then we were able to have a much easier conversation.
Of course.
Yeah. So what would be the call to action then for the audience, or a call to growth, so to speak?
What do you mean?
So what can we have the audience do as a call to grow? How can they grow in your mind?
I think just matter of taking it step by step and find the right teachers and find the right source of information that inspires you.
Well, then, thank you for coming on the show, Hiroshi.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So just a matter of just stay strong, and embrace the change, and everything will be okay as long as you stay strong.
Yeah. Once again,
never give up.
Never give up. Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Once again, this is Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator. This is Hiroshi Usuda on the Polymath Polycast. Thank you.